Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I'm Atonte Myers, and my co-host is here with me, Dr. Ricardo Whyte, and we are excited that you are here with us, and we are happy to be here with you as well. Please put in the chat where you are watching from so that we can say a special welcome to you. Dr. Whyte, how are you? So we missed you last week.
Things are good. Things are good. I heard you replaced me.
We didn't replace you. We just had a guest, as you were originally could not be here, and then it seemed that it could have worked out just as well as you were able to, take one Mental Health Monday off just to recuperate from a busy day. So all worked out. We were
Absolutely.
we were grateful to have Christina with us last week, who we talked about trauma, which is a huge,
We did.
just a huge topic, and that people have been affected by trauma in so many different ways. So I think the audience was able to hear some new things that were really a blessing to them. We just want to say welcome from Arkansas and Washington. I missed some states as we were talking. I don't know if you.
Portland, Oregon. We got
Okay.
Michelle from Portland, Oregon. We got Crystal from Spokane, Washington. Jamie from Compton, California.
All
Go
right.
California.
And we got
We got
Michigan.
we got
Did we already say
Fort
Michigan?
Smith, Arkansas. Hi, Kim. Somebody's talking about our video. Whose video is not in focus?
From Grace, Idaho.
Yeah.
I hope mine's okay. It looks okay. Yours looks okay too.
Yeah. I
So I'm
think
not
that's
sure.
we think that's on your end.
Maybe, yeah. Our
We think that-
producer said it's fine. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, yours
Yes.
is fine. And
All
I think
right.
that's good.
All right.
Yeah,
So
man.
we have a huge topic. Oh, we have Janet from Bronx, New York. Welcome, Janet.
The Bronx.
Yes. You're from New York.
I am from New York.
Yeah. Yep. You and I were from New York.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. And then after you went to California, did you want to go back to New York, or were you?
The cold, man. The cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like the culture of New York.
Right.
So that's very enticing.
It's nothing
Shopping
like
is
the
awesome.
New York. There's nothing like the New York pizza.
Oh my word. Ooh-wee.
Because we moved, let's see, we got married and we literally moved out to California. I mean, I'm from California, but for Ivor, it was all new, like a week after we got married. And when he tasted California pizza, he was like, this is cardboard. What is this?
It's like, dude, you can't compare, man.
He was like, this is a joke.
This is, yeah. And I'm sure there've been some changes by now, because believe it or not, there's actually quite a reputable place in of all places, Arizona. In Phoenix, Arizona, I heard there's quite a spot.
That's supposed to, but people do that. Like even in the Bay Area when we lived there, they were like New York style pizza, and we're like,
Nah,
no. So this is like the real deal.
Lines outside the store waiting.
Okay.
Like
It's,
you know it's okay. Yeah. So it's the real deal. But whatever the case, yeah, no, it's good to I love California weather, so super happy to be
yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yes, of course. We did it for 24 years, or almost 23 and a half years, and then when the Lord called us to Alabama, I think Ivor was like, oh, I think he had a harder time leaving California than I did, because I was like, because I grew up with it. Yeah. So, but maybe because we had both lived in Huntsville before, me longer than him prior, but I kind of knew that the weather wasn't that horrible. I mean, it was not California, but it's not absolutely insane. It's not New York with the heavy snow. It's not the East Coast where it's so cold. So,
well, the thing is when you're talking about like April and you're still getting a snowstorm, that's when it starts wearing on you. You know? Like
we
the long winters kind of.
We wouldn't get that here. You know what? We did a long enough intro just so that your mic could start popping.
It started popping?
It's popping right now.
Oh
You
my
guys, we are trying to figure out Dr. Whyte's mic popping situation, and we will figure it out. We have changed mics. We have prayed. We have checked on wires. We
Testing.
can,
1, 2, 3.
And it's not so bad, but I'm gonna have you go out and come in as I will maybe start to introduce our topic, and then you can come back and jump back in, because you got to hear everything you need to say. Yeah, we have to hear all of that. So let me see. Why don't you talk again before you go out?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
It's still there.
Okay. That's wild. Okay.
Yeah,
I gotta find out how to go. All right.
All right. So he's going to leave just for a brief. He'll be right back. So I'm going to ask you, the audience, get you guys involved right at the beginning. So any of you are you familiar with emotional focus therapy? Have you ever heard of that before by Sue Johnson? She is the one who started this style of therapy. If you're familiar with emotional focus therapy or attachment styles, put a 1 in the chat. Any ones? I'm going to wait for you guys to have some ones. Bring Dr. Whyte in here. Okay, I just asked our audience. I'm getting them involved. Just asked them to see if any. Okay, well, Janet Abbey has heard of emotional focus therapy, and so has Gloria. All right, we have some people who are familiar with Sue Johnson and emotional focus therapy. And so that's going to be our discussion tonight, but specifically attachment styles. And the reason why we're talking about attachment styles is because these attachment styles that we're going to go over 4 of them tonight, and these attachment styles are produced and created when as a child, as an infant, really. And we'll even see, like on the last attachment style, how you may start off with a secure attachment style, but something may happen, a trauma may happen, a parent may die, something could happen, and the attachment style that you originated with, the secure attachment style, may change, and that would cause your behavior to change as an adult because of the trauma that you went through. So again, the reason why this is so important is because the way that you attached as a child, it will play out as an adult in all of your relationships, not just in like this is considered a couples therapy, but you can use it on individuals because it plays itself out in your other relationships that don't have to do with like romance. It doesn't have to be with a husband or with a significant other, but in all of your relationships. So we want to talk about that this evening. So Dr. Whyte, welcome back. Hopefully you will not have to leave us again. So why don't you speak for us and make sure
There it is. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Right now you are good. So let's move forward. Forward while you're good.
Right. So
yeah, I just gave a little background, but you may want to, if you have anything you want to share about Sue Johnson, the founder of this theory.
Well, yeah. I mean, Susan Johnson, very famous marriage and very famous therapist, couples therapist.
Right.
That really focused on emotion, really centered her theory around this issue of attachment. You can't really talk about attachment without alluding to John Bowlby, a psychologist who proposed the attachment theory back in the 1950s/60s. So, of course, she's evolved it and really centered her approach to couples therapy and coined the term emotionally focused therapy, to the best of my knowledge.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So, okay, let's jump in. And remember, guys, we want to see your questions. We'd like to answer those and also your comments as you are hearing the information that's being presented. So definitely want to hear from you as well. But let's go over the first attachment style, Dr. Whyte, and that is secure attachment. When a person has a secure attachment, or I should say an infant creates a secure attachment, as they are, babies and throughout their young childhood life. And this is considered the healthy attachment, a good attachment.
Absolutely.
And this is when your primary caregiver, you attach to this person, you have security, you have a secure bond with them, because they have always provided everything that you have needed. They attend to you. So the food and the clothing and making sure that you're, in a healthy situation, you're, the climate, the environment you're in, it's just, they've taken care of you. And so you create a secure attachment. Would you like to share more about
Sure.
that?
So
Okay,
they're
go ahead.
feeling loved, they feel secure, they feel confident, and that feeling, it translates to them being wanting to explore. They're exploring their world freely. They feel confident that they're going to be able to return and get that secure love. So they obviously would prefer being with parents than strangers, because sometimes you see them. Um, I won't even go into it right now, but they can separate from their parents without there being a huge problem. On a lighter note, I can recall, my daughter, she was about 9 months when we came to California, and I was taking her to church, and basically I would be giving my wife a break from her on the weekend. So she was my responsibility, like, on the weekends. And so I'm taking her to Sabbath school now. Sabbath school I personally enjoyed, but here I was like, okay, all right, I guess for the next 5-6 years or so, no more going to Sabbath school, because of course she's got to go into Sabbath school, and I'm sure she doesn't want me to leave her alone. So
Yeah.
I walk up to the door. She rips her hand out of mine. She runs into the class and does not look back. I'm like, yes.
Yes. Wow. Wow.
And
Yeah.
so she just was, I guess she rathered being with strangers more than me. So that wasn't healthy attachment.
Yes.
No, but I mean, I think she
Well,
was
the thing is,
comfortable.
what it is too is she felt safe. She felt safe to
Absolutely.
be able to wander off from you, and
Absolutely.
to know that. But if she felt safe enough that if there was danger, you were going to protect her. So she
Absolutely.
felt secure. She was like, I can run off in this classroom with these other kids. They look
Absolutely.
fun. And then daddy's not, he's close by to be able to protect me if
Absolutely.
anything goes
But yeah,
wrong.
the key is they can separate from their parents without being overly upset. Okay.
Right.
And they
Right.
know to look for comfort from their parents when they're afraid. They're happy to see their parents when they return.
Mm-hmm.
On another lighter note, I remember when I would go to pick her up and she was a child, and she would run to me, and it would just be so awesome. Like, and sometimes, of course, you're coming at the end of your day, so you're exhausted, and she would run to you, and it felt so good. And it's funny because when it's happening, you think, oh, this is going to happen for the rest of her life. Then,
Right.
like, she's a teenager and she's all in her phone. You
She's all
walk
in
in,
her phone.
she barely lifts her head. No, I'm joking, but if your kids are doing that right
He's
now,
kind of joking.
if they're running to you, appreciate it, because it doesn't
Right.
last forever. Is the
That's
bottom line.
true. That's true. They don't, but teenagers we have to do a whole program on teenagers. That's what we'll have to do. We won't, let me not go off track. The only other thing is, Dr. Whyte, is you're popping again. So um yeah,
I gotta go.
yeah, you got to go and then come back in. I just think we know what to do with that, and eventually we're going to figure out why this is happening. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about secure attachment. So how does this play out as an adult in other relationships? So, people who have secure attachments, that develop secure attachments as a child, as an infant, their adult relationships, their marital relationships, their friendships, they are they're more secure in these relationships. As you see, we're going to go through some of the other styles, and when we're going to compare the secure attachment style versus some of the other ones, you'll see that when you have a secure attachment, you don't have an anxious attachment. So in the relationship, they're more secure. They feel very confident. And these are some of the things that characteristics that represent a secure attachment. Yes. So you're back.
That I am. That I am.
Okay. Well, he's back for now. So let's go with that because there's no popping. I was just going over like what a secure attachment looks like as an adult and an adult relationship. So you might want to chime in on that as well.
Sure. Higher self-esteem,
Yes.
emotionally self-regulation. So,
They're very confident.
Even if you get upset, you know how to kind of calm yourself down. They tend to have secure relationships with their romantic partners, and that's really the big thing. And they form emotional connection and expect that the partner to be emotionally available and responsive. And secure adults interact with people in positive ways and feel comfortable in the relationship. So they tend to have more stable relationships as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is, and you may be thinking like, wow, doesn't everyone take care of their, children when they're infants and young to make them feel loved and, and provided for and all of these things. This scenario does not happen always for everyone. And what can be taken from that, from a baby or a child, can become an attachment that's not secure. And so we're going to look at some of these other ones. So the second attachment style is an anxious attachment. And this is an attachment style where the parent is inconsistent. And so the child gets nervous, like, are they left? Are they coming back? Or, sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're taking care of me, sometimes they're not taking care of me properly. And so a person, an anxious attachment style is created as an infant or in childhood.
And you can see why it's so important to provide that stability, so that you don't create that anxiety that then is going to translate into adulthood. But you can see that the instability, the inconsistency, it leads to a child being anxious, and it of course translating to impact the relationships subsequently where they have an anxious disposition.
Right. And as an adult, I mean, the way this plays out in our adult relationships is when you have an anxious attachment style, you're always like, let's just say somebody doesn't text you back right away, one of your friends, or even your spouse or something. You're always like, do they not want to be friends with me anymore? Are they gonna just all kinds of things are running through your head because you're just always afraid of being abandoned. You're just not sure.
And it can feel draining, the feeling that you constantly have to provide this reassurance. No, no, I do love you. And, it can definitely feel draining,
Right.
constantly trying to reassure the person. So Kim Jones asked an interesting question. Would babies that are adopted not have a secure attachment? Well, the interesting thing about that is it varies why babies are adopted. And so just the fact that they're adopted wouldn't necessarily guarantee or have you say, well, they're going to have attachment versus or not. It would depend on the scenario. And so in certain adoption situations, the baby has been through quite a bit of trauma per se. But in others, that's not the case.
That's not the case.
What are your thoughts, sis?
Well, if the baby is adopted, very early on, and the primary caregiver that is taking care of the baby did, you know, take care of the baby to make it feel secured and provided for and loved, and they could feel like the warmth of the caregiver that was always there. It's possible, but like you said, every adoptive situation is different. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, And then somebody else had a question. Can the attachment style start in the womb?
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah. Can attachment start in the womb? What I would say is that while in the womb, the child is impacted by the disposition of the mother. So I
Right.
would say that there is some literature supporting that it's really wise to give a pregnant woman a really secure and peaceful, pregnancy. Yeah, she wants whatever, peanut butter and whatever, get it, and get it quickly. And yeah, it's because her experience gets translated to the baby. Now, as
Mhm.
far as this attachment issue, this has to do with separation. so, so
Right.
obviously there is a constant connection occurring in the womb, um, which makes it difficult to talk about elements of separation since they're constantly being cradled in that womb. There's that the connection is basically unbroken, if
Right.
you will, other than maybe some of the different emotional dispositions and thereby chemicals that then can be translated in, like stress hormones, for example. So so I wouldn't say that the attachment discussion is as relatable in the womb because of that. But that's my best guess. That's a guess on my part. I can't speak
Mhm.
in terms of
Yeah.
facts. What are your thoughts, Sis?
My thoughts are, we're gonna get an engineer, somebody to come to your home and figure out why your microphone is still popping. But until that happens, we are gonna just you can just go out and then just come right back, and then we'll just continue on. Okay, we know how to do this now. Um, so yes, everything that Dr. Whyte just said. I agree. I agree with. So I'm going to go. I just want to spend a little bit more time on the anxious attachment style, because I think we see quite a bit of that prevalent today, and it plays out in our relationships. But even when a child, they're always an anxious attachment style is created. They're just unsure and uncertain if the parent is going to come back. And sometimes, even when the parent comes back, they can't even be soothed or calmed down because they are so traumatized by the fact that they left. And so, I don't know if you've ever seen that, like a parent will come back and the child still just very upset, and it's very difficult to soothe them. It's just a very anxious way, and that's how they can be in their adult relationship. And like Dr. White had said, it can be very trying and difficult for the other person in that relationship to always try to help them to be okay, and just always reassuring them that I'm here, I'm not going to leave you, I love you, or I am your friend, I want to be in this relationship. It can be very, very overwhelming for them. So it can cause issues in a friendship and a marriage, in any relationship. And so that's why it's so very important to understand some of these things. And for some of you, I know it's probably the very first time that you're probably even hearing some of these things to even think about. But welcome back, Dr. White, again.
Yeah, good. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Yes, you
Are
are
you
good.
talking about the disorganized, fearful attachment type?
No, I just was going over saying some more about the anxious attachment. We haven't moved on to step number three, or
Okay.
to attachment
Okay,
style number
anxious
three.
ambivalent. Got
But
it.
the
well,
third, go ahead, go ahead.
well, the hallmark thing being, so see how profound experiences in infancy can translate to an adult experience. I think that's a big key thing to realize here.
Hmm.
And we talked about the importance of giving uh, mothers, pregnant mothers, a
Hmm.
positive experience, but you see how attentive it is, how important it is to be attentive with the child,
Right.
because you know the, that the experiences as a child can have a profound impact and consequences when the child grows older. So these are some of the really core concepts that it's hopefully that you're getting from this.
Right, right. There's there's a, I guess not quite a question, but I mean just a comment. Um put my, I like to call them my older lady glasses, but so I can see that completely. Um, Someone said, I believe because my mother was sick and she didn't take care of herself while carrying me and didn't take care of me while I was forced to live under her custody. And she damaged me greatly. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. That's a very unfortunate um, situation to be in. But your attachment style definitely could, was developed during that time. If there was, if there was no other caregiver that was um, providing for you to take care of you to make you feel secure. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if you
mean,
have anything to share.
absolutely, absolutely. What I love about the brain is that it's neuroplastic.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that God designed the brain such that the neural networks that are formed that explain how we get by in life, they're not permanent and they're not concrete. They're neuroplastic, and
Mm-hmm.
that plastic element is supposed to help you understand that it can change. It
Right.
can change.
Right.
And what that means is you're not doomed to your past. You're not doomed to that. So that maybe you had a horrible upbringing, maybe there were experiences that incline you to be a certain way. You don't have to die that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If it could form in a certain way, then shifts, then other experiences can occur that help your brain to change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want like a solid argument describing what I'm talking about, look at the book The Brain That Changes Itself,
Mm. Okay.
where story after story it describes amazing changes that the brain can go through depending on the experiences that you subjected to. So this hopefully is also a message of hope. We want you to gain some insights
Right.
into some of the early dynamics that can have a lasting impact going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But especially if you're an adult today and you look back at some troublesome elements of your past, be encouraged that if you do the work and if you expose that brain to the right experiences, you can absolutely experience growth and predispose yourself to health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness and trust and so on and so forth.
That's right. Just I like you're right. The brain is neuroplastic, so it can change. There's neuroplasticity, so our brains can change, and so just because you may not have started out within a secure attachment, but now as an adult, you're understanding and you're learning this. Um, you can be aware, and things can change. It doesn't have to stay the same. So definitely, um, there's a lot of questions that just kind of flew by as we were just talking, um, and I don't want to miss any.
How
Um,
much does it affect children from divorced parents? Um, it's interesting in that because the human experience is so complicated, you get divorced parents that at times um, give the children sometimes a better experience, you know,
mhm,
from in that they've made that resolution. And I'm not saying that that's the majority of the situations. Obviously, the ideal is a healthy, parental relationship where they're cooperating and they are operating around a commitment to
mhm,
provide the family support, stability, and all those good things. That's obviously the ideal. But nevertheless, there is a resilience in the human spirit and an adaptability to where that commitment can still emerge. Parents can
Mhm.
still make a commitment that, hey, we want to provide as much stability as possible,
Right.
and can still make that commitment and give kids a nice stable experience as best as can be. Okay,
Mhm.
so that occurs on a range. You get some people who horribly co-parent, whether in marriage or out of marriage, and you
Right.
get some people who do fantastic co-parenting in marriage or out of marriage.
Children
um
can, yeah.
over
I
you
just
over to you.
I was
So
just gonna say, sorry to cut you off a little bit. I was just gonna say children can survive uh, divorce. Some people say, well, we're staying together even though we don't get along and we argue and all these type of things for the kids, and they're staying in the marriage, and that is, when, but there's all this conflict that they're constantly seeing. So children can survive it, whether you stay in the marriage, if it's a, of course, a loving, committed marriage, but then if you have to get a divorce, if there's conflict, like severe conflict, that's, very traumatic in the divorce, that's what ruins kids in the divorce. If you're peaceful through the divorce and co-parent in a way that is showing maturity and love and trying to provide the best, the best situation um, in a divorce as best as you can. Children can survive that. So it's not really the divorce or staying together. It is the trauma and the conflict that's in a divorce or in a marriage that causes problems for the kids.
for this next question, is selective mutism caused by anxious attachment? First of all, selective mutism is when there is like volitional, like not speaking, where there's intentional not speaking. So it's not
Right.
like a person is mute in that
Right.
they have physiological obstructions to speaking. It's just there's a psychological reason why they're choosing not to speak.
Or
Well,
yeah.
there are many causes of why that can result in a person choosing not to speak.
In
Um,
certain situations, because they
in
may,
certain
yeah.
situations, from trauma to anxiety, there are anxiety conditions where it can occur, to a host of reasons, and not necessarily just anxious attachment.
Hmm.
So next question: what is the worst attachment style a parent can do to their kids?
So we have two more to go through.
Yeah,
Anxious attachment style is not good. There's really, the good one is the secure attachment.
absolutely.
That's the one that all parents. That's what we should be striving for. So the anxious attachment isn't a good attachment. I mean, that's not what you're wanting. You don't want to cause your child to have an anxious attachment style. And then the next one we can go to, and maybe then come back to some of the questions,
Yeah,
is avoidant. The
avoidant
avoidant,
dismissive attachment type.
yes.
Yeah. So as children, avoidant attachment forms when the attachment figure rejects an infant's connection seeking behaviors. These parents tend to be emotionally rigid and they get angry at their infants.
Yes.
So kids with insecure avoidant attachments tend to see others as uniformly cold, rejecting, or manipulative, and they feel insecure in the relationships. They're avoidant, maintain an emotional distance to protect themselves. They use deactivation as their coping strategy.
Right.
And in the strange situation, avoidant kids are not distressed when separated from their mothers. And upon reunion, they avoid their mothers. So
Yeah.
let's
They
talk
don't
about the
show
strange.
emotion. They don't show
Right.
emotion.
Did you define the strange situation?
I'm sorry?
Did you define what the strange situation is?
No.
Okay. And so you help me out because you this is more your area than mine. But where they are talking about these attachment styles, there was a researcher, prominent psychologist by the name of Mary Ainsworth, and she's
Mhm.
the one that designed the experience of the strange experience. So in other words, like you had this mother in a room, and she was with an infant, and so after playing with the infant, she might leave the infant and they would observe what the infant's response was, and then maybe a stranger would come into the room and they would watch the child and how they interacted with the stranger, and then the mother might come back and then they watch the child, how the child responds to the mother now that she's come back. And so there were varying ways in which the child would respond to the various scenarios. And that is then, so we're talking then about the various attachment styles that they believe led to how that baby would respond to those strange, they call them stranger situations. Is that fair?
Right. Yes. Yes. That is fair. I wanted to piggyback on the avoidant attachment style just to really talk about how you said if the mom leaves, they don't show any emotion. If she comes back, they don't show any emotion. And it's not, and they avoid, um, it's not that they don't have, they have like a physiological effect and, they're having some, but they're not showing their emotions. They're guarded and they put the walls up. And so that's why they're considered cold, maybe not loving because they don't show that emotion. And that carries on into adulthood, into their relationships. They avoid being, I think that's why Sue Johnson uses this so much in emotional focused therapy is that um, they will avoid being very connected to another person, like, so their relationships, it's difficult for that other person to see how much this person loves me because this person doesn't has an issue in showing emotion. They have difficulty with that, and so that's how it impacts their adult relationships.
Absolutely. Well, so we described as a child, and so now we can go into how those infant experiences translate to what you'll see as adults.
Right.
So they're uncomfortable with deep feelings in intimate situations. They
Mhm.
set extreme emotional and or physical boundaries. They may hide information from their partners. They send mixed signals and disregard their partner's feelings.
Mhm.
They are non-committal and prefer casual sex, and they idealize past relationships.
Right. And they don't allow themselves to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that, it's difficult for the partner who is again, in this relationship. And again, this can go for friendships, this is like really any relationship. It doesn't have to be a marital relationship that, understanding your attachment style can really how it can affect your relationships. There's a question here. Um, can a person have more than one attachment style? I see two already in my husband. Well, I'm gonna let you take that.
Um, to the best of my understanding, no.
Yeah.
To the best of my understanding, there will be a major attachment style.
Yeah.
So to the best of my knowledge, I would say no, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's what I wanted to say, but I wanted you to go there first. Yeah, 'cause I didn't wanna
Thank you,
I mean,
partner.
well, I'm just saying, like, I didn't wanna, like, get it wrong, but I haven't heard of,
Yeah.
someone being able to have multiple attachment styles. It's not quite like that, but I do know, that, they can change, and maybe there's some characteristics of some of the other attachment styles that you're resonating with your husband, but um, it's primarily you have one attachment style,
Yeah.
unless there's a new study that's going to prove us wrong. Um,
It's just about time for me to step out, probably. How's my mic?
it's popping just a little bit, but not so bad that we can't understand. So I've just
Okay.
left you on because I feel
Okay.
like I can understand what you're saying. And it's not that distractive. It's not just
Okay.
that distracting, I should say. Um, but here's another question. So secure attachment is positive stability, is a and then avoidant anxious attachment styles involve fear. Yeah, Jamie, that's exactly right. There's definitely fear that's involved, and that was created. Again, these attachment styles are created when we are young children, young babies, and that's where that comes from. I don't know if there was another question there. Okay.
I don't see another
Okay.
Okay.
So, um,
Is it time for the last one, the
Yes, we
disorganized?
were just
Yeah,
gonna go for, yeah, just go to the fourth one, disorganized attachment style.
yeah.
Um, and
So
this
as
is, oh, go
go ahead.
ahead. Well, I was just gonna say this is the one that, um, and I think they call it disorganized because you could start off with a secure attachment, but then there might be a trauma that happens with the child, and so they go from secure to, something else, and then you become, or the parent, some kind of trauma can happen, and so the parent, while the child is going through something that's traumatic, or just, just not in a good place, and instead of the parent, speaking loving and kindly to the child to try to help them get through this, they start yelling and, screaming at the child, and so from that, you're like, oh man, I'm not safe. So when I don't feel bad, when I don't feel good, even though this is the person who, it takes care of me and provides for me, but I'm not in a safe situation. Or you can be in a loving relationship and still not be safe. And so that's what they call a disorganized attachment style. Hopefully that makes sense. Like that's what kind of it's teaching this child that.
I love that you just boiled it down to teaching.
Hmm.
So much of the experience that we give our children is teaching.
Right.
And it's by teaching that we convey. So it's as if you're translating things onto your child. And I just think about when we rage at children, when we yell, and sometimes you'll hear some parents even swear at children.
Right. Just
And they're smaller, they're defenseless, and so they absorb it. And it's a tragic mistake to think that they're just going to absorb it and it's not going to come back one way or the other. Obviously, if you're a child, I'm not espousing being disrespectful to parents, but of course the Bible warns, hey, parents, don't be disrespectful to children, and children, don't be disrespectful to parents, but parents, don't
mhm.
provoke your children.
Right.
And I think it's really important to realize that all of this sounds complicated, but
Right.
to keep it as simple as possible, it is important to keep your feelings in check as
Right.
you're parenting. It's
Right.
called parenting, not raging, not beating up, not, it's
Right.
parenting. And sometimes if you need to tell the child, hey, give me a moment, go to your room for a moment, give me a moment to calm down.
Mhm.
It's important to do that because it's about discipline, and it's about really teaching from a place where you're emotionally regulated, because you don't want to infect your child with a spirit of rage,
Mhm.
and later on you see them reciprocate that kind of behavior.
Right.
So it goes, and so often, like when we're angry, especially if we're angry with like a little child, so much of that anger has way more to do with us versus that little child.
Right.
If sometimes, if for some reason maybe they broke something, it's like they're 1 or 6 months, like who put the thing there at the first,
Right.
who put it within their reach. So who are you really angry with? And
Mhm.
even the child existing, like that's on you. As to why they're there, they certainly had nothing to do with that. So that I don't say that as some smug parent who has not, got my own battle scars and
Right.
learned that, hey, there's a better way to do things. As
Yeah.
parents, and parents committed to doing a good job, we're humble because all have sinned and come short. But the goal is just to understand that you're raising your parent. I'll
Mhm.
say it again, you're raising your parent. Um, we are raising the children that will be in the position to advocate for us when we
Mhm.
become incapacitated.
Mhm.
And the role will shift. I know it's hard to believe today.
No, it
And
does.
and
Role
so
shifts.
how do you want them to be? Do you want them to be people that are patient? Do you want them to be people who are confident and who are patient with you and loving, so on and so forth?
Mhm.
Well, those early interactions they have a translation to when they become older. That's
Mm-hmm.
the point of all this.
Right.
That's the point of all this. It affects the bond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I were to simplify it, your behavior affects the bond between you and them and their ability to bond with others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you unpack the attachment theory, that's what you really see. And so take it seriously, nurturing the bond between you and your child because it will affect their ability to bond with others. What are your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
sis?
No, I mean, I agree with you 100% when you were saying, like, how we need to be so very careful on how we respond to our children. And I was thinking, like, yeah, we need to put ourselves on a timeout before we, respond to our children. Because so many times, again, we're teaching them and showing them and modeling for them on how to respond to things in stressful situations. And that affects them negatively, unfortunately, and it
And
affects the
there's so many
bond.
things that have us primed. A hard work at the job, and now you come home with all that on you, and sometimes a stressful interaction with your spouse, and you're primed, and
Mm.
then of course you get them and their crazy behaviors as a stimulus, and so they're in the position to get the brunt of anger and rage or what have you that might not even be commensurate, might
Right,
not even be deserving.
right.
um, so it's kind of unfair. Is my popping up to massive levels now?
No, you're popping, and it's not at massive levels. It's okay. I'll always let you know if it's just too much, but it's not too bad, and I think the audience will as well. Um, but Shannon Shannon says, "Got it." So we could mentally mess up our kids unknowingly. And I have to say, Shannon, you are absolutely correct. Now, right now, I'm currently working as the mental health counselor at a university. So, I'm seeing students and they're sharing, all these different things in our cultures also. Uh, we culturally are brought up with certain, we just see things we've always grown up with. And then their parents did this, and we just let it come right down the line. And if parents just have no idea how they can impact their children negatively to have issues, and they're not on purpose. And I tell my student clients that all the time. I was like, it's not that your parents don't love you, it's that they're doing things that they were taught or learned and culturally have always been taught that it's okay. And so unfortunately, it plays itself out in a negative way in your life. But you're here in therapy trying to work on that. I just kind of really try to encourage them. And I'm not speaking, I'm a parent of four, and I'm not speaking like I didn't do some of these same things to my kids. I mean, it's like, it wasn't perfect, but, it was, again, we don't not love our children. We do, but there's things that we do that can cause them to have some mental health issues later.
Yeah,
What do you,
all have sinned. As
yes,
parents, we all have to acknowledge that there are some things I could have done better.
right,
um, but I think when we get the opportunity to show them as much love as possible,
right.
you want to do that. And it's because that will allow for them to understand that, at the end of the day, I know my parent loves me.
Mhm,
But it is important that in our interactions, we recognize I could negatively impact this person. I really
mhm,
could. And
mhm.
so I need to be responsible with my actions.
Right.
And that's important. And if you are having any questions about that, think about how some of the interactions you had with your parent and how it impacted you. you
True.
know to
True.
this day there are some intrusive thoughts that you still go back to because it was so profound.
Right.
You still look at that parent a little funny because of some of the things that they did.
Right.
So if we could experience that, then how much more so
Our
can we
kids.
also do that to our kids?
I was gonna
um,
say also, just to add on to that, what I have learned in my own life, this is a practical thing I've learned in my own life. This isn't a study that has been proven, but in my life with my kids, I've realized that saying I'm sorry, like humbling yourself to apologize when you realize, you know what, I didn't handle that right. I made a mistake and I could have handled it better. Mom isn't perfect. Dad isn't perfect. We love you. We want to do the best for you. We were very passionate. I mean, you fill in the blank, but just being humble enough to say I'm sorry. And in some cultures, parents saying I'm sorry, or they would say, oh, lowering yourself under the kids. That's not belittling yourself under the kids. That's actually showing humility that they can actually respond to and connect with.
It's also
I have
being
found.
truthful. It's also
Yes.
being just flat out truthful. I made a mistake.
Right.
I made a mistake. One way or another, your kids are getting hip to the game that you're not perfect.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Oh, yes. They figured that out.
You're not perfect. And that and in the imperfection, the worst one is where you refuse to acknowledge daddy's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Okay.
Right.
At least you're being truthful. At least you're being truthful. But especially when it comes to you've made a mistake. You've made a mistake. Everyone knows you made a mistake. I can't see what the downside is to just acknowledging, look, I made a mistake. I messed up. I'm sorry. You're just acknowledging the truth.
Yeah, I haven't seen a downside. Like my kids, I can see they just kind of they almost feel sorry for me. Not like sorry, but they're just like, okay, mommy, yes, okay, it's okay.
It's like, I know you have to get off your horse. I know you're supposed to model for us, but it means a lot. Like my daughter's literally said, it means a lot that you're saying you're sorry and that you acknowledge you're wrong. Like she'll literally say that. It means a lot that you said that because I know you're wrong.
But I'm glad that you could actually say it.
Oh, you have to. You have to.
Yeah,
the other piece is you don't feel good inside. You do not. If you have any kind of self-awareness, you do not feel good inside. And the only little relief you get is that you actually acknowledged it and they're able to say, look, I understand. I'm cool. Don't worry about it. And
I've had my kids say before, oh gosh, this is like so in the present moment, it's so annoying that they say this, but afterwards I know they're right. But they while I'm saying something in the wrong way, like maybe I was yelling, maybe I just wasn't saying it right, or I was so upset. And so they're like, I know you're going to apologize after this. Like, and you're like, I have heard that. I have received that before. So yes. And so, and as they're saying it, I'm just like, I'm mad right now, but they're right. I am going to feel bad about this because I'm not handling it right. And they're right. I open their door and like, they kind of smile at me and I just start my apology because they know I come in their room and say, I'm sorry because I handled that wrong. So
my daughter has spared me that one. I haven't gotten that one.
Yeah.
But no, that's the bottom line. That's what we really want you to understand is to be sensitive to how you're impacting your child because the impact is profound. And not only does it impact them and your bond, it impacts their ability to form bonds going forward. And some of the simple things you have available is get off your horse. You're off of it, by the way. So you might as well acknowledge that you're off of it and apologize where possible and change the behavior. Because that's the other thing about apologizing. Over and over and over again, it loses some credence. It loses credence. And that's why not only should we make it our goal to apologize, we need to change the behavior. That's really the big thing. Apologize and change the behavior.
Yes. Yes. Shannon, I agree. She says, unfortunately, some parents would never apologize. And, it's really the Holy Spirit that leads you to apologize. I mean, it's just like, he moves on your heart to humble you. And like you said, Dr. Whyte, you just feel horrible about it. Like, I didn't feel, of course, I just couldn't go on about the day or just move on to the next thing without the apology because you feel like what did I just do? Like, I wouldn't want somebody else to yell at my child or to say something like that to my child in that way. I don't want anybody else to mistreat them. So you don't want to mistreat them as well, even when you feel like you're justified as a parent.
Right. I was looking for Gigi's question, but I can't find Gigi's question.
I don't
Maybe
know,
you
Amber,
could post it again.
Or no, or
Uh,
Gigi, can you say it again? Or
yeah,
I'm just saying it again.
Amber can't find it either.
She
So
can't find it either. Gigi, can
yeah.
you rewrite it? It will be our last question, because we are almost all out of time. I don't know if Gigi's still on here. Maybe she's typing. We'll give her time to type.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
just to like kind of summarize what we've learned is that, there's the 4 attachment styles, but the secure attachment style is as if you're a parent and you're parenting, that's the one you're going for. You want your child to feel secure in your that that of course that you love them, that you're there for them, that the provisions are made for them. I was thinking, because I have a granddaughter who I think is she 19, 20 months. I don't know. These months go by so fast. And I just watched my daughter mother her and parent her. And and I'm not just saying it because it's my daughter and like she learned it from me. I'm not saying that because I know all my mistakes, right, that I've made. And I know she's still she's still an infant or a toddler now. But she's just so um loving and caring and everything for my granddaughter. Like she just has like this, she's just like the perfect little mother. I mean, because I remember having little babies and getting frustrated at times because little babies can, you can get stressed out with everything. And maybe because she only has one, it's not as stressful. I don't know. But I just remember, and I never see her get that way. She's just very, very attentive and patient with my granddaughter. So I mean,
No,
it's just very important to um, be that way with our children to help them to feel secure. Go ahead.
honestly, it seems like your granddaughter has a calm demeanor, though.
She is very sweet, I have to say.
Yeah, it
But I
seems
don't.
like she has a calm demeanor,
Yeah, she
but
is
all
she is, and she's very loving. Like she'll smile. She likes to talk. Like she can barely talk. I mean, she can talk, but not talk. And like, yeah, if she's in the grocery store, she's trying to talk to people that she doesn't even know. So yeah, she's just very friendly and kind and loving. She is like that. You're right. And you only met her that one time, I think, or saw
yeah,
her.
yeah, and like you kind of introduced this to us on some board meetings, but she's always
Oh,
calm.
true.
She's always got this kind of
Yeah.
calm demeanor. You get this.
And
So
she
I'm
came that way. She really
yeah.
came that way. I was when she was born, I always tell people I'm the first face that she saw, I have to say, in the delivery room. But she was calm even then. She just didn't, she really only cried. I never went on about my grandbaby, but she only cried when she was sleepy or hungry. She didn't just
Now
cry just because she was
now did
fussy.
the dad give mom a great pregnancy?
My daughter had a stressful pregnancy because
Oh,
remember my
stressful.
son. Well, not because of because remember my son-in-law
Right.
was
I know.
diagnosed with leukemia when she was 4 months pregnant. But through all of your guys' prayers, I have this is a testimony to God. Because of all of your prayers, all of you who knew what was going on at that time, uh, and we were trying to be the most supportive parents that we could be to make it as easy for her as she was going through this stressful situation. And everybody was showing so much love. And I think God just kept it that Jaden actually, um, it was a stressful situation, but it wasn't, she wasn't, I don't even know what I don't want to say she wasn't stressed. There was definitely stress, but she had a peace. She
Peace
got
that
closer
passes all
to
understanding.
that's all I can say. I can't explain it. It passes understanding because,
Yeah.
and she just was she was still very excited about the baby. She's always like loving the baby in her womb. It was just,
But but
yeah,
but but it seems like they weren't contentious during the period.
right.
If anything, they
No,
were together and they were
they were drawn,
collaborative.
yes, they were drawn closer together because of the trial that they were in.
So
Yeah,
peace in the midst of the storm,
peace in the midst of the storm.
rather
And the
than
baby,
storm in the midst of the peace.
yeah,
Like you get relationships where they're at each other and they're being cruel to each other, and it seems like
yeah.
regardless of what was going on around them, it seems like they were kind to each other.
Right. They were. And I think they were just so happy that to be alive, or that my son-in-law was alive and that to have life. So yeah, you're right.
Here's
So
here's
I don't
Gigi's question. Here's
okay, we
Gigi's
found it.
question. How do you get from one of the unhealthy styles to secure? So, for example, from avoidant to secure.
Through therapy.
Well, two words. Good therapy. I mean,
Through
good,
therapy.
good, 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 good therapy. I think it is so easy to see therapy as useless and peripheral and
Oh,
unnecessary and all those
it's
kinds of things.
necessary.
And like, I hope in this discussion you see how things that happened in infancy
Mm-hmm.
could have an impact and a consequence in adulthood. All right. And you don't just sit and figure that kind of stuff out. And so, how, yeah, good therapy. That, like, therapy, like, one of the things that can happen is you actually have in your construct, hey, what might have been some of the childhood experiences? What are some of the dynamics that occurred in childhood that might be playing out now in adults? In like these social scientists, they've conducted experiments at times to
Mm-hmm.
understand and create some of these models so that they can understand what people are presenting with and how best to intervene. Okay.
Right.
But the key is to make sure that your therapists are qualified and skilled and
Right.
have the ability to deal with your issue. But that's the whole point of good therapy, I would say.
Mm-hmm. No,
What are you gonna say, sis?
I agree with you exactly. It's a lot of the things that we're dealing with in therapy, especially in couples therapy or even individual therapy, is just kind of figuring out what attachment style you do have, right? And then trying to dismantle that negative attachment style to get you to a secure attachment style, or just reframing some of your cognitive distortions that were, that actually were created through the negative attachment style as a baby and as an infant. So that's a lot of the work that therapists do. Um, and they may not be using emotional focus therapy, so we may not call it some of the things that Sue Johnson, labels it as, but it's still the same work, but just might have different names that we're calling that, but the actual principles of the work are the same.
Yeah, so great question, Gigi. All right. Well, this was another segment that just kind of sped by.
Yes, yes, it did. And so we want to thank you for watching and being our viewing audience. Please share this on your social media. If you have not liked our Instagram page, and that's for our Living Manna Church, which is called My Living Manna. Please follow, I should say, our Instagram page and share this link, because everybody falls into one of these four attachment styles. So there's nobody on this planet that can't benefit from the information that we shared, but this evening. But as always, if you feel like this has become such a big issue in your relationships, in your life, definitely reach out to a mental health professional in your area, a marriage and family therapist, a psychologist, a clinical social worker, and sometimes you may need to see someone like a Dr. Whyte, a psychiatrist as well. But definitely reach out to a
Or
mental health
Sister Atonte.
professional.
Well, so what I want to do is, in preparation for when we do our killing burnout, segment, you let me
Okay.
know when we want to do that.
Okay.
We have a nice survey that you want to take. So go to killingburnout.com and you can take that survey. And for those of you who actually do that, I will send you our notes on the 4 attachment style. Okay. So
Wonderful.
yeah, so go to killingburnout.com and we will send you that. We will, and if you take the survey, we will send you the notes on the various attachment styles. So thank you for cooperating.
Yes, sounds great. Sounds great. Okay, well, thank you again for viewing. Please share this program. We will see you again next week. Also, we have amazing programming all throughout the week. But we have our church service on Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And we, for those who are not Seventh-day Adventists, that's the Sabbath for us as well. And so we invite you to check us out there. You can check us out on our website to see about all the other programming, and that's you see on your screen, livingmanna.live. So until next time, have a wonderful week, and we will. Yes, before I go, thank you, Amra. Text if you want to stay connected with us to always know what's going on with Living Manna Church or even with Mental Health Mondays. Text LMOC to 84576, and you can stay in contact with us that way, and we'll let you know all of the updates and what's going on and programs that we're airing at that time. So, all right, with that, we please have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You take care. Bye-bye.